Hi, welcome to
this sculpting tutorial. This is a sculpture for a prosthetic that's for an upcoming short, Paralleled. It took me around 2 hours, I think. It was sculpted using soft monster clay on a life cast made of plaster. There's going to be a lot of prosthetics for this. Most of them are going to be in one tutorial, but for the face, since this is such a big part of it, it's its own tutorial. I've already primed the surface with some PAM, just to help the monster clay peel off later. I usually start all my sculptures by blocking out the eyes, and that's what I did here. I'm sure you've noticed that the production quality of this video is much higher than any video we've done before, and that we've been uploading much more consistently. You can probably expect a video every week, maybe slightly more, and then YouTube Shorts probably every other day. I'm sculpting this off of a reference that was drawn by Autumn. It had this sort of slit Red Skull looking nose, and with prosthetic makeup that's really hard to do. It's usually removed with some special effects, but since this face was so round, I could just build up the nose and then dig in. Once I got all the basic blocking done, then I used my fingers to dig a smile into the face. Then it's just a matter of adding clay, removing clay, and moving clay around just to get the shape a little bit more refined. The eyes were way too big, so I ended up pushing clay around them, just into them to make them smaller. I wanted to give him that thing that turtles, old people, and old turtles have. So I took a piece of clay, rolled it out, and then blended it onto the neck. I added a piece of clay to the chin to better connect them. And his jawline was looking a little too sharp, so I took some pieces of clay to fill it out. And then I took some clay and placed it in the mouth just to fill that out a little bit more. I don't have the right sculpting tool, so I used my glasses to carve some detail into the neck. And now it's time to do the first smoothing. This is probably the most unfun of unfun things can get. I'm also just going around the edges and pressing the clay in and smoothing it out, trying to get a better blend between the clay and the plaster. Now for the teeth. This is a method that I like to use a lot, where you basically roll out a tiny little snake of the clay and you press it down, and then you take little bits of clay and roll them out into teeth, press it down into the clay, and then later you're going to peel it up off the desk and then press it down into the upper jaw and bottom jaw, depending on if you're using this method for that as well. Here I made the gums a little bit long, so I'm just using a card to slice off the extra bits. I'm using a cigar lighter to melt the clay around the mouth. Hairdryer works too, but this is more accurate and quicker. On the bottom jaw there aren't going to be nearly as many teeth, so I'm just going to take some and press them down into it. So then I'm taking the teeth that I just made and pressing them down into the melted clay. And then I'm making sure to heat that back up. And then using my fingers, I'm blending the clay from the top lip down into it just to get a better blend. Depending on what you're sculpting, you might want to blend this or not blend this. It's a little hard to see here, but I'm using my fingernail to blend the gums into the upper lip and just try to get that to fade out. So now I'm cutting off a piece of ribbon, rolling it up between my fingers, and then pressing it down around the eye sockets to create wrinkles. This creates a sort of dried out, wrinkled in look. And then to really make that work, I'm melting the clay and then it's using its surface tension to create more rounded curves. And then you have to do that entire thing on the other eye. And now that the butthole eyes are done, we move on to the texturing. So I'm using some bubble wrap to create some pretty interesting texture. Then I'm melting that with a hairdryer, and then I'm going over it again and just constantly switching back and forth to really create some nice interesting texture. I'm also using a plastic bag that's crumpled up and pressing that in to help smooth out any bumps left and also add in some wrinkles. Just trying not to leave any areas untouched. And now you can see from this bottom angle that I'm taking some little clay pellets and pressing them up into the skin to create some warts. And then going over that again and adding some texture. And that was about it. I hope this was helpful. In probably 1 or 2 weeks from now, I have a 3 or 4 part tutorial on creating some energy effects and creating a 3D world in Blender. I'll show a little clip on screen right now. There isn't any audio though. So if you're interested in that, stick around.